morning. It always amazes me every year when we come to this conference how much technology has changed from the year before. This conference, I think the first time I was at it, which must have been 19 or 20 years ago, really started because of the advent of the mobile telephone across Africa. And since then, we've seen each year a new technology, a new development that has taken us from 2G. I remember the year when WAP was announced as the next big thing. We were building at that time 16-meter satellite antennas. Now we're at 5G, and I think this year, if you look at back to where we were last year, the arrival of the new AI applications has been, probably one of the most significant developments that we've seen probably in the last 20 years, the impacts of which are still yet to be seen. Now, I was in San Francisco a couple of months ago, and I took my first ride in a driverless vehicle that you summoned on an app. It was called Waymo, one of Google's projects. The car arrived, you got in, and it took you to your destination, completely driverless. And I was talking to one of the people at Google who'd been involved in the development of it. And he said, the statistics show that it is far safer than having a car with a driver in, a human who's going to make all sorts of errors and potentially have accidents. And he said, the same happens with aircraft. He said, most in-flight incidents are caused by human error. And, in the future, an aircraft will have in the cockpit a human pilot and a dog. And the human is there so when the passengers get on the plane, they can feel comfortable that there's a human pilot in the cockpit. And the dog is there to make sure that the human doesn't touch anything. But these trends that we're seeing both in technology are linked also to what we've been doing as an industry across Africa. In 2009, as the first sea cables came in, that is what the fiber map looked like. By 2023, it had moved to this, a plethora of fiber covering the continent. And it is that connectivity that has enabled not only a lot of progress, but is also enabling criminals to target us and our customers. Criminals using our infrastructure to create threats like we have never seen before. Interpol did an analysis of cybersecurity across Africa. And what emerged from that is that business email is still the most prevalent threat to cybersecurity, and it's still the most prevalent way of networks being compromised. Business email issues resulted in over $2.4 billion of losses in the United States alone. And this is becoming more and more prevalent across Africa. 50% of those attacks are targeting South Africa, but it is rapidly spreading elsewhere. A survey that we did found that in Zambia, 93% of businesses saw this as being a major threat. Phishing, spam, email threats. South Africa, 66% of businesses said illegal access to the company or client information was their biggest threat. And in Kenya, 68% recognized email as being the biggest threat. Now, in July of this year, there was a significant cyber attack on Kenya. It focused on government infrastructure, electricity networks, communications networks. It took down government facilities for several weeks. It was not possible to have visas, driver's licenses, passports processed for a multiple number of weeks because of the cyber attack. It then extended to banks. So from an African context, though, we've seen cyber attacks, and we've seen them in South Africa on Eskom, on Transnet, on many companies. It's very unusual that a country would be the recipient of such a sustained attack as we saw in Kenya. We produced a threat advisory report, as our C2 division does periodically when threats emerge, to identify that this threat came from a group calling themselves Anonymous Sudan. Now, why Anonymous Sudan? Well, they claim to come from Sudan, but it appears that their Russian is better than their Arabic is. They have been involved in numerous attacks across the world, but especially what we saw in Kenya. One of the banks that we were working with there, all their facilities were taken offline. One of the major banks in Kenya, unable to process any transactions. That was eventually solved by identifying where the origin of these denials of service attacks were coming from and rerouting traffic away at the far end, the countries and the places where that originated, allowing legitimate transactions within Kenya to start flowing again. And yeah, as I say, with the amount of time that we'd spent looking at Anonymous Sudan, as I say, their Arabic seemed to be one of their weakest points. The cyber threat has evolved to the point that cybercrime has become an entrepreneurial endeavor. There's now Crimeware-as-a-Service. I mean, one of the crimeware companies called Gand Crab claims that they facilitated $2 billion worth of ransomware. They provide the software. People can come and white label their ransomware software and now utilize that to extract ransom from people. So the criminals now don't even need to develop the software themselves. They can just license it from companies who are producing it. And combined with that, in the emerging age of AI, is the ability to produce deep fakes. Just a few weeks ago, Tom Hanks had to come out and issue a statement saying that there was an advert in which he appeared, looked like Tom Hanks, sounded like Tom Hanks, but wasn't Tom Hanks, and he was endorsing a dental plan, but it had absolutely nothing to do with him. And in Germany, a large company in Germany received a call from one of their associated companies in the UK. The CEO came on the line and asked for 300,000 euros to be transferred to the company's account. The CEO had a discussion with the people in Germany. He mentioned his children. He mentioned a few people who had joined the company in the preceding weeks, and it sounded exactly like the CEO. In fact, they recognized his voice, and there were a lot of personal details that were discussed. That was a complete fake. 300,000 euros was transferred. This wasn't anymore about emails and about people responding to an email. It was about receiving a phone call that sounded exactly like the person that they spoke to every day and being asked to make a transfer. And more importantly with that, it's not just about being asked to make a transfer, but what does somebody do in an organization if the CEO or the CIO calls them and says, "We've got a new employee, please could you create a new user profile for us?" You recognize the voice. You create the new user profile. Someone has just got access into a banking or into an enterprise's systems. This is the new threat that we face as an industry. And how do we counter this ability to produce deep fakes and the ability of criminals to use AI engines to extract information? This case in Germany, the criminals had used AI to go and research the CEO, the person who'd be receiving the call, the organization. So they knew who on LinkedIn, who on Facebook had said, "I've just started working for that organization." They knew about their children. They knew when birthdays were. They knew that 2 days before a child had graduated from university. So the ability to collect intimate information that gives credibility to these kinds of attacks is absolutely there. Now, just to show you or let you hear an example of this.
Melania, it's me. I'm at the courthouse again. Crazy, not good judge says I need to pay $10,000 this time. I know, right? Witch hunt. So sad. But Melania, I left all my credit cards at home, and Dickie says I literally can't leave if I literally don't pay the judge right now. It's outrageous. I know, my bad, but it's only $10,000 this time, and you should see the ratings I got from it. Such ratings. Nobody got better ratings than me. Dickie says you can wire it straight to the court clerk. No problemo. Yeah? Great. And remember, you're a phenomenal woman, honey. Phenomenal. We're both very, very phenomenal. Gotta run? I'll get a McMuffin on the way home.
That took 5 minutes of training on a website that anyone could access. The ability now to train a voice and then using text-to-speech to say anything is there right now. Any CEO or anybody who's got their voice on the internet, any YouTube video, any part of your voice that someone else can access, with less than 5 minutes of your voice, and this probably didn't take 10 minutes to create, and you just got to write the script of what you wanted to say, you're able to produce that. So, clearly, that obviously wasn't Donald Trump, and I really just wanted to find somebody that if we poked a bit of ridicule, no one would mind. So I thought that I didn't want anybody to take offense. So I thought I was on safe territory there. But I was making the point about information that is on the internet and the ability of AI now to search out within your organization to say who's new, who's just joined, and to pull all these personal details together to create credible stories. In the past, it was celebrities who needed to worry about their image. is someone going to utilize the image to put on a coffee cup and, sell as a souvenir? Now that affects every one of us, because any one of our faces can be taken to produce a deep fake that compromises our organization. Each one of us can have our voice captured. And this is obviously going to create new issues for us as an industry. Do we now start to copyright our images, just as ordinary people? Do we need to copyright our voices so that they can't be used in an authorized way? Do we need to, on our applications now, when we do authentication, we're now not authenticating with passwords. We now need to authenticate whether people's voices actually belong to them or whether they've been created artificially. So, that is, one of the key things for us as an industry to think about with these new technologies. And, any kind of phishing campaign is now turbocharged with a large language model because of the amount of information that it is able to produce. We've got, login windows are plausible, voice is plausible, as we've just seen. Now, generative AI is also helping in cyber defense. Whether it is Google or Microsoft, they are all in the process of bringing out new cyber defenses utilizing AI. They will simplify the process of being able to defend against these kinds of attacks, and I think are likely to be successful because AI requires huge compute power, and the compute power at this point is in the hands of the big players, you can call it the good guys. The bad guys are having to use AI that you can just get online. So we've put together fusion centers which utilize the power of artificial intelligence to detect various patterns and to try and catch what others miss. And the ability to use AI means that across Africa, where cybersecurity skills are in short supply, in fact, a survey recently found that there were 100,000, there was a shortage of cyber skill in the region of about 100,000 people compared to what's needed. And this is a gap that can be filled by using consolidated centers combined with AI to respond to these kinds of threats. And with that,
you've been a tremendous audience here at AfricaCom. You truly have. No audience could have been better. I love you. Let's make Africa great again.